Hello everyone, and welcome to a list of around 50 English science vocabulary words for anyone who wants to improve their technical and scientific English, because science uses even some familiar English words in new ways. For school-age students, these are words that you might need in the first 2 years of secondary school, around age 11 or 12 upward. The list is alphabetical and there will definitely be some important words missed out, but I hope that this will give a good introduction. So that you know which words are coming up on the list, I have highlighted them in green, and there are some other words you might not know highlighted in red. Let's move on to the first word, shall we? Atom. An atom is the smallest unit of a chemical element. They are very, very small. Even 1,000,000 of them would be too small for us to see. Inside the atom are protons, neutrons, and electrons. We used to think that electrons orbited the nucleus like planets in the solar system, but today it is much stranger. We know where the electron might be, but we don't really know where it is. Cell. A cell is the smallest unit of living matter. Every cell is made up of millions of atoms. Inside the cell are many different parts of the machine. A cell works by chemistry, but many cells together can make bigger and bigger organisms. Eventually, the chemistry becomes too complex and we call it biology. Charge. Charge is a property of matter which tells you how much electricity an object has. Kind of. In fact, moving charge through matter is what we call electricity. Charge has two different types, positive and negative. Similar charges repel each other, but different charges will attract. This is an effect like you might have seen in magnets, and electricity and magnetism are related. Compound. A compound is a substance that is made up of two or more elements. And I'll just ask you before we go on, do you know what this compound is? Have you ever seen it before? Well, this compound is the chemical makeup of water. And water is one of the most common compounds on Earth. It is made of 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen atoms, and that is why we call it H2O. Compounds are always the same chemically. If it isn't H2O, then it's not water. Conductor. And let's just point out that this is not a conductor like you might find on a train or in an orchestra. A conductor in science is a substance that carries heat or electricity very easily. Metals are usually the best conductors. Copper or even gold is often used in electrical wires. And if you have ever left a spoon in a cup of hot tea, then you know that a metal like stainless steel or iron conducts heat very well. Distance. Distance is a measure of how far it is between 2 points in space. This line might be straight along a road, or not. It might be a curved line around the Earth, or a line through 3-dimensional space. So that we can understand distance, we have to give it a unit. The most common units of distance are the meter and the kilometer. Ecosystem. An ecosystem is all of the living things in a place and all the non-living things that they also use. If it is alive, or if life uses it, then it is part of the ecosystem. Even the sunlight coming to Earth is part of the system. Every ecosystem is different, but some of them are similar to each other. And, like we said, this also involves some chemical parts of the ecosystem. Animals and plants are obviously to do with life, but rocks and nutrients are something we don't see. Electron. An electron is a tiny particle with a negative charge. It is found in atoms. They whiz around the nucleus incredibly fast, and we never really know where they are. Electrons help atoms to bond together to make compounds. If there were no electrons, then no matter bigger than atoms could exist. Element. An element is a substance that cannot be turned into simpler substances, although it might become more complex ones. The simplest element is hydrogen, which is made of just one proton and one electron. All of the other elements are bigger, with more protons, electrons, and neutrons. And they are all arranged into the periodic table, which arranges all of the elements we know in groups according to how they react. Energy. In these pictures, you can see various different types of energy, although not all the different types. Do you know what to call any of them? Energy is hard to describe because it is so abstract. Everything is energy in some form or another, and energy cannot be destroyed, only changed. This is called the first law of thermodynamics, and it is one of the most basic science principles that there is. Force. A force is something that makes objects change speed, direction, or shape. Moving objects carry a force so that they make other objects move when they hit them. You can see this in the movement of billiard balls. When the cue moves, it makes a force that hits the white ball and makes it move. The white ball then carries a force to another ball and makes that move. Of course, forces get a lot more complicated than this, but that is the basics. And there we will take a break and call it part 1 of our basic science vocabulary series. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and feel free to share this with any of your friends who might be interested. See you again in part 2.